Okay, so it's gone 12 o'clock. So, Hells, would you like to kick us off?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. This is part of our Data Cubed six-step webinar on everything you need to know to get your organization ready for AI. And this is the best one, right? This is all about risk. So as a business owner, I hear you. Risk might not sound like the most exciting one, but as a business owner, it's the main one, right? It's the one that could scupper everything, make everything a problem, cause us lots of issues. So it's the one that's really super important and the one that we need to be able to make risk-informed decisions on. So what we're going to do today is kind of focus on the future of AI. I am super excited about the potential of AI for my business Data Cubed and for all of our Data Cube clients. And the amazing technology we've got available is available now, right? It's totally transforming our business at Data Cube now. Our business is running incredibly different already. We see so much potential for all of our clients and all of your businesses as well. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a bit of a client and consultant. Nick is going to be the consultant. I'm going to be the client. We're going to play out a bit of a real world scenario for you. We are going to talk about all the different aspects of risk management and all the things we need to think about. And it's all about making risk informed decisions, right? You know, we don't want to be risk averse. We don't want to be a risk kind of reckless, crazy people. We want to be risk informed as business leaders, don't we? So that's what we want to do here, is to enable all of us to be business leaders who can guide our teams to the forefront of innovation with risk in mind. So a little intro to us for those of you who haven't heard of us. How could you not hear from us? This is part of our series, but we are Data Cubed. We are award-winning data and AI transformation consultants. We help our clients navigate through their data and AI transformation. And we've got teams all over the world. We've done lots of different data and AI projects. And I founded the business in 2017. So we've been doing this for quite a long time now, and we're really proud of our Net Promoter Score and our happy clients. So here's me, that's me. I am the founder and global CEO of Data Cubed, and I'm delighted to be with you here today. Over to you, Nick.
Thank you. My name is Nick Merry, and I am the Product and Partnerships Director at Data Cubed. So principally my role is to make amazing products and propositions to make our clients happy. And so they excel and they transform and they make the most out of data and obviously AI. And you know, we are here to talk about risk management. No presentation is a complete presentation without a few quotes just to contextualize things. So a couple of things here. So first of all, from Andrew Ng, who's the Stanford University professor, AI's power lies in its data. Managing risks associated with both is not just a technical challenge, but a societal imperative. So really highlighting the need to consider risk from an AI perspective. Equally, the former CEO of IBM, so the convergence of AI and data brings both unprecedented opportunities and significant risks. So effective risk management is crucial to harness the benefits while mitigating the threats. I think it's really important, that one, that we are, as Hel's already pointed out, that we don't go into this being risk adverse. We need to risk manage because there is opportunity to be balanced out here. But a UK specific one on the impact of risk. So 2023, the average cost of a data breach for SMEs in the UK was around £16,000. And furthermore, it is estimated there are about 65,000 attempts to hack SMEs, of which 4,500 of them are successful. And that's straight from the mouth of our illustrious government. So this is a real thing. And it is better to be prepared than have to deal with it afterwards.
Absolutely. And we get loads of phishing activity, don't we, Nick? You know, people pretending to be me and you and trying to get all sorts of things done. So this is very much real, and I'm sure you will feel that in your organizations.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so these are the key words really, is using risk management to avoid being risk adverse. you've got to think about what it looks like for your organization. And the scenario that Hels and I are about to go through is a scenario, but every business is different and they have different risks and different impacts associated with those risks. Each industry is different, each organization is different. So you've got to consider what is impacted and who is impacted, and then how can you assess that risk? And that is what we'll go through. But it's important to balance that risk with opportunity. So as Hels pointed out, this is a part of a series of webinars that we've been doing. This one is particularly about risk management, and it comes from data risk management, and AI is gleaned from data. So the data behind AI is fundamental and carries risk associated with it when you're using and adopting AI. But it's important you want to get your data risk management clear and concise, so you adopt AI for success, so you don't adopt it for failure. Because you try it once and it fails, you're probably not going to touch it again for a few years, and that might be too late because the rest of the world has moved on by then. So you need to be risk aware, not risk adverse, and you need to manage the impact of any fallout from some of the risks that your business is exposed to, and have a plan for that fallout. So improving understanding can often create that plan. The more people understand about a situation, the less risky it is, and it can create that opportunity. There are other pillars that we've been doing webinars around, and I won't say it again. This one's around risk management, but we've also got webinars around architecture, governance, culture, analytics, and quality, and they are the 6 pillars of data maturity. And data maturity, for successful AI, data needs to be mature. And so we're focusing this whole webinar series on how to get your organization ready for AI by looking at the 6 pillars of data maturity. Okay, Hels, over to you.
Yeah, so on this webinar, I'm going to play the role of a client. So I'm going to be the client, and Nick is going to be my consultant from DataCubed. So we wanted to kind of create a scenario for you and for me to be that client. So I am the managing director of an accountancy firm called Numbers Cubed. Do you see what I did there? Make sure I'm going to remember the name. So Numbers Cubed, we are an accountancy firm, and I'm the MD there. In this scenario, we've had an issue with the data breach, and a year ago, someone in the team sent some of our really confidential commercial data to a competitor, and they did that deliberately, and therefore that caused a lot of concerns, and we actually lost customers as a result. So, I'm the MD of a business that has had a real impact and bad experience with data loss and data breach, and we've paid a big price for that. We're now, though, looking at AI adoption within our accountancy firm, and as the MD, I want to make sure my eyes are open to all of the risks. So there are 2 parts to this kind of story. Firstly, we have done a lot of work at Numbers Cubed to improve our data security processes, so that we're in a much stronger position than we were a year ago when we had the data breach. But I would love Nick as my consultant to help me with what else should I consider to minimize the chance of data security issues occurring in future. That's one part of this. So really making sure that data breach never happens again. Number 2, we are exploring AI automation like many firms in the world and in the UK. We really see an opportunity for automation to improve Numbers Cubed and how we move forward. So I'd love Nick as my consultant to help me plan for that success and that automation by helping me be really mindful of the risks I need to consider. So my dream outcome for Numbers Cubed is for AI-driven automation to free up my team so they can focus on the growth of our business and really focus on growing our accountancy firm. So Nick, how can you help me?
Right, I'm going to now flick over to another screen where we're going to hopefully smoothly talk through how to approach this.
Brilliant.
Okay, so In very simple terms, it is important to consider all your risks, but map them onto a simple high risk, low risk, low impact, high impact matrix. And the reason for doing this is that you will, first of all, make sure you've considered all the risks associated with your business, but you will start to map out where the ones that you should focus on first, and how far down the path of risk mitigation do you need to go based upon how impactful they could be on your business. But as a starter for 10, it's really important for your business to know what your definition is for risk and for impact. Now, risk can be simply chance of occurrence. So is it going to occur? Yes. Is it going to occur? No. Is it going to occur every day? Or is it going to occur once a decade? So again, timescales will be dependent upon your own nature of your own business, but it's about frequency of occurrence. Now, impact is the key one, because impact can be many different things. It can be a financial impact. It could be a reputational impact. It could be the impact on, as Hels said, that her accountancy firm had an impact because her customers were exposed to a data breach. So what percentage of your customers are exposed to that data breach? That is an impact in itself. For some organizations, it could be environmental. It could be legal. And just to make sure that I haven't forgotten anything, the values of your organization. So often organizations are built on a mission and a value system, and values are very, very inherent to a business, and ensuring that you stick to those values is really, really important. So do some of these risks start to expose you against your values? And then obviously the more obvious one is just day-to-day operations of your organization. Do the risks hinder the operations of your business? So
yeah, and probably for many of us as business owners, those impacts of those risks are huge, right? I think we all see in the press loads of coverage of businesses being fined for all sorts of data issues, or having breaches and really impacting customers. It can be huge and massively painful, and I'm sure, like lots of people on this call, we have a lot of fear around this, around the impact of something going wrong. Could be hugely embarrassing in a public arena, and not something that you just struggle with on your own in your own business. So yeah, it can be really huge.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, some businesses, the risk could literally be a loss of life. So you've really got to consider what impact means for your business, and what the potential fallout would be. And again, just going back to the point that this isn't about risk, being risk adverse, and just like, let's just not take any risks at all, because your business will not thrive if you take that approach. This is about managing and being aware of the risks to help your business thrive and grow. Okay, so Hels, you're an accountancy firm, and
Yes.
you said to me that actually last year you did have a data breach issue, and that was something that actually had an impact on your business. You lost customers. So what a normal approach with this matrix would be is to identify the different risk factors, and then plot them nicely onto the matrix against whether they are likely to happen, or whether they are impactful or not. So with an illicit data breach, I would have thought that 12 months ago, or 18 months ago, let's say, you would have thought, it's unlikely to happen. If it did happen, it could be a quite high impact. But the fact that it did happen would surely push it up. The question is now is what you've done in response to that, and has that managed to bring the risk back down again? So
I think so. I think with the changes we've made and the learnings of that experience, like lots of organizations who have had this kind of issue, we're now, if anything, more lockdown than is helpful. We're so secure at Numbers Cubed now, but the impact is higher than it would have been a year ago, right? Because it's happened once before. The impact now would be so much more bigger. You know, we've lost some customers, we could lose some more at DataCube. So I would say low risk, but higher impact than a year ago.
Okay, and it's with data breaches and data security as a subject within risk management, which is often the one that people that jumps to people's mind first because of the nature of data. You need to ensure you know what to do with a data breach, and just having those protocols in place. For example, knowing when you need to raise this to the Information Commissioner's Office. So it's a formal government body that needs to be aware of data breaches and what the impact is. And as part of that, you need to have a named data protection officer within your organization. So do you have those things in place? And that could be part of a sort of a governance process that you've got sort of locked down. So when it comes to data security, ensure you know what the risks are, but also what you need to do as a result of them. And the quicker you react, nothing is absolutely 100% secure. We don't live in a world like that, I'm afraid. But the quicker you react, the more evidence you can provide that you've tried to mitigate this as much as possible, the less the consequence. And that goes both from a customer perspective, but also from an authority perspective.
Yeah.
So you've got things like an illicit data breach, but you've also got things like human error. People are infallible, and sometimes things just go wrong. So, Hels, within your organization, do you how often are you communicating sort of sensitive data with your customers? Does it happen often, and therefore does it increase the risk of human error?
Yeah, definitely. So, we're communicating at Numbers Cubed financial data that's very commercially sensitive for the organizations we're working with. Often it's very easy to send things like that via email, unprotected, and not thinking these things through. So we've done, as a result of our issue a year ago, we've done a lot more training. We've got a lot more controls built into our security systems to make sure those accidental high risk email attachments and those kind of things are less of a risk now because we've got some systems in place. But so yeah, that's lower impact, lower risk now than it was a year ago, but still similar impact.
Okay, so let's kind of hop it there. I think the impact of an illicit data breach can often be considered higher because it is an unknown. Malicious actors out there can they're trying to get anything they can get their hands on, whereas human error is often limited, but it doesn't mean that the impact is going to be significantly less. But it's great to have
and it's kind of there's solutions around controls, training.
Yes.
Blocking certain things being sent by email and things like that, because otherwise, with the very best of intentions, we can all do silly things without thinking.
Quite. And I think that brings us on to the sort of next point is that, and this goes to not just your first sort of consideration, but your second consideration around AI automation and ensuring that there is a knowledge with the tools through training and awareness. So within your organization, I assume you use a series of sort of third-party tools that are utilized for whatever it is that you provide your customers, and training your staff on how to use those tools is absolutely fundamental to minimize the risk of things going wrong. And training is one of those things that doing that at the forefront reduces the risk on a whole bunch of different areas that sits underneath it, which is really important. So lack of knowledge of tools can be of high impact because people then do things like accidentally leak data.
Yeah.
So when it comes to AI and your your ambitions with AI, Hells, have you already started looking into tools and services?
We're using ChatGPT to help us with some of our communications work and ideation, kind of thinking, writing things like social media posts and marketing and those types of things. So we're using ChatGPT. We've used Midjourney for some image creation,
Okay.
but we're not using it at the moment. I've been very strict as a business owner to say that we can't use any of these tools for anything that is client specific. We can't upload any of our own data into them because they're all, I'm very clear, they're all out in the public domain. So we're only using it for very light touch marketing style, sales style, kind of those kind of things.
Okay.
So low risk things
No
that can
risk.
just automate what we do. So, and I feel I'm just touching the surface because there's so many tools out there, it's really overwhelming.
Sure. Okay. So just for our audience, the red boxes are the more data specific risks. All could be impacted, all are impacted by AI, and you need to consider different things when you're looking at, for example, an illicit data breach when AI is considered. The blue boxes are more AI specific, just so we're clear on what's being brought on. But lack of knowledge and tools when it comes to AI software providers is really important. Managing or increasing that knowledge of these tools, because that helps with things like mitigating against bias. So we've all sort of heard read the press. I'm sure we're all very aware of AI and ChatGPT and generative AI specifically. The fact that it's open to bias is there, and how we use those tools depends on whether it is of risk to us or not. And if the tool is trained on the big wide world of the internet, but that is not reflective of our customer base, then will that result in certain biases when we use it for our own organization? So considerations there, and the risk of reputational impact, for example, it exists and it needs to be considered. Equally, things like hallucinations. So, excuse me one sec. Something in my eye. When ChatGPT was first created, or OpenAI were first creating their tools, hallucinations were quite prominent. There were the things that, again, the press sort of latched onto. This means that you ask a question and it gives you an answer, whether it knows an answer or not, and that can push you down the wrong path. You could be making ill-informed decisions about your organization, which obviously then creates risk dependent upon the subject that you're talking about. So things like, again, going back to the tools, making sure you understand what tools you're using and what the strengths and pitfalls are of those tools is really important. And that, again, helps you minimize the risk that you're creating.
And I think we've seen that on the bias ones, as an organization that has a really mixed customer base, as an organization that's really passionate about our diversity and inclusion policies. We've seen when we've created imagery, it will show doctors as white men, for instance. We'll make kind of assumptions that are, I suppose in my mind, very old fashioned, but clearly it's getting it from lots of data out there. So, that's vital for us that we don't, and we can see some of this bias and we can fix it, and that's fine. But I suppose what worries me more is where I can't see the bias, where it's hidden, because those obvious gender ones are quite obvious to see. But that's something that really worries me because it needs to align to our business values.
Absolutely. I mean, there's certain situations where, as an example, social media, people put their best selves on their social media. And so the AI is reading that information as gospel, and therefore it is true, but it's not necessarily reflective of society, and there's going to be biases that will come through in that. And that can, if depending on the nature of your business, you could be making informed decisions on targeting people with your product and services based on things that are just wrong. So there are biases at a more acute level, as Hels just pointed out, but also at an operational level. Back to understanding your tools, is that it's really important not to embrace tools without actually understanding what's happening in the inner workings of them, the algorithms within them. This is the sort of the black box, AI black box, and there are vast amounts of tools out there at the moment, and they're increasing on a daily basis. And so understanding which tools are right for your business, but then understanding how those tools actually work is really important. So you're making, or so you're using them in the right way, and you're making the right decisions off the back of them. So not understanding will increase your risk of problems happening, and the chances are increase your impact of those things happening. And then one other sort of very specific tools related, AI related tools consideration is tech debt. So we are currently using ChatGPT 4.0. But the publicly available version is 3.5, which is a few years out of date. Now that has been trained on information on the big wide world of the web that is now a few years out of date. And so if you're using that particular tool within your organization, you're going to be missing current affairs, and then you could be making ill-informed decisions about, let's say, market forecasting. There's a lot has happened in the last couple of years. The world is a bit of a scary place. You need to ensure that the technology you're using has those considerations in place, and so ensuring that the tech is up to date and knowing when you need to update it and get the latest version is really important consideration. If you are using an out-of-date one, that might absolutely be fine, given the nature of how that's being used within your organization. But for example, Hels with an accountancy firm, and some of the advice and guidance you might be giving your customers could be based upon the cost of living crisis that we've been going through. Now, if you're using a technology that's 2 years out of date, it's not going to necessarily take that into account.
No, and I think financial forecasting is one where these two combine, the black box and tech debt. Like, so when you're forecasting financials or anything, you want to know the underlying assumptions for that forecast. Is that forecast just based on historical performance? Well, over how long? Because is that going through the COVID period? Or not? What might change in future that actually makes that historical performance not relevant anymore? Is it allowing for external data? You might have an impact that's impacted by the weather significantly, or exchange rates and things like that. So I think, forecasting is something where, we as business leaders need to understand what that forecast is based on, what the underlying assumptions are. Otherwise, we're either not going to believe it, or we're going to believe it and we're going to make the wrong decisions. So that's really crucial, understanding what the assumptions are, which is often hard when the AI models are getting so complex and therefore so hard to understand now.
Correct. And ensuring good ways of mitigating that risk and in managing it is ensuring that there is sort of human oversight. So having human oversight of these things will pull the chance of something going wrong down, because you've got somebody actually checking in on these things who understands it. And then also setting guardrails. So guardrails would be things like, you are to use this tool in this context for this purpose, rather than for anything over here, because we've bought this tool as an organization to do some financial forecasting. It's not going to help you with insight on, I'm just making this up now, but customer predictions of some sort. But anyway, the point is that you've got guardrails in place to ensure that there is the governance within the organization to say what these tools are to be used for. And if you've got that in place, again, it reduces the risk and reduces the impact potentially from things going wrong. But one of the key things within AI specifically is around data quality. So poor data quality within your organization can have a massive impact on what it is that you're using that AI for, and the quality of the output. Garbage in, garbage out is the old saying. So Hels, when it comes to your particular business, how do you feel about data quality? Do you feel like it's up to scratch?
I think it really varies. So at Numbers Cubed, where we're an accountancy firm, I would say it really varies. Like, so over the last year, we've got really great at getting really good data from our clients that have joined us in the last 12 months. But for the last 10 years, the data is really patchy. So it really varies over time. Also, there are for companies that are publicly listed, we've got more public information on them than small businesses. We haven't. So it really varies.
Okay. So let's say that at the moment it's a low risk because you've got governance procedures in place to ensure that data quality is managed. But if something does go wrong, then the impact could be quite high because you're dealing with people's sensitive information to do with their own financial situation. So we've mentioned regulation a little bit. Now, obviously, not all industries are regulated, and financial services is regulated, and therefore ensuring that you are aware of what those regulations are and putting the right processes and procedures and mitigation plans in place to not breach those regulations is really important. And the impact could be quite significant if it goes wrong. Now, the obvious thing is to plan for this and make sure you are aware of it. And as the more that you are aware of it, and you've got, when you need to do something, what you need to do, who you need to send it to, it just brings the chance of it happening down. But breaching industry regulation can have quite a financial impact and reputational impact on your business. Equally, with personally identifiable information. So Hels, you talked about the issue you had 12 months ago, where a member of staff sent some personally identifiable information to competitors. Now that is an absolute breach of GDPR. So having an awareness of what to do, and as I said, when to inform the Information Commissioner's Office is really, really important. There are more and more examples of organizations being heavily fined off the back of GDPR breaches. So it's not something to take lightly. And all it takes is just a little bit of organization and understanding of what's involved. Okay, so we've talked a bit about specifics to do with AI products and services, but there are also things that a lot of organizations do to help their AI work, and that is to do with sort of enriching information, enriching data. So ensuring that the third parties that you get data from are sound and solid, you've got the right agreements in place, again, is something that needs to be considered, and it is outside of your control to a degree, because it's not you're not creating that data, but you are utilizing it. And so you need to have processes and measures in place to ensure that you're checking in on that data, and you've got the legal contracts in place to ensure that data is of a certain quality. Hels, do you bring external data into your organization?
Yeah, we bring in some Companies House information, and we use Apollo for our lead generation to identify kind of email addresses and things like that. So yeah, we use some of those tools.
So things like Companies House, which is pretty sound information, the chance of something going wrong is quite low, and therefore it's low risk. And equally, Apollo, which is about prospecting, this is publicly available information, so it's not really high impact, high risk. So I'd probably bring in your external data providers down a bit.
Great.
But certain organizations will be using a lot more sensitive information that they're gleaning from elsewhere. Thinking, the medical industry, they might be pulling research data from a third party that is absolutely vital and really, really important. Now, if that was wrong in any way, shape, or form, then the impact that would have on an organization would be significant. So it's really important to ensure that your third-party data is managed accordingly. Now, there are a whole bunch of different, as you can see, there's a whole bunch of considerations from a risk management perspective, and I don't propose that we go through everything, but we've got organizational impacts that you need to consider, the loss of people and skills within your organization, and what that might have on your day-to-day running of your data function and understanding of your AI technologies. And then there is project delivery, things like that. Now, project delivery is a project. It's not necessarily data specific, but the scope creep can have an impact on the data that is being utilized, and increase spend and lose control of things. And so you need to consider those sorts of things within a risk matrix. But you might also want to consider for projects to have its own risk matrix and consider the risks to do with a specific project on its own, rather than the company as a whole.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we've all experienced projects that have had scope creep, gone way overspend, and spent way too long to get there, haven't we? So I'm sure all of us can empathize with that.
Yes. And I think that the very last thing I'll point out on this, well, 2 points. Is first of all, is that this is just a flavor of some of the considerations, particularly in the scenario that Hells has shared with us. But ensuring you know what to do when it happens, so incident response, and just having a process for that, and that can sit within your your data governance, your AI governance framework, is making sure you know what to do when you need to do it, and the impacts that it's going to have. So incident response is super important. It's not something that can be necessarily plotted, because every single one of these has needs a response. So I suggest that we leave it there. This is a flavor of how to approach things, and hopefully it gets your juices flowing on the considerations you need to think about for your own business. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Hells, just before we flick back?
No, that's great, Nick. Because as you say, it's different for every business. We've given you a scenario with a made-up business called Numbers Cubed. But we'd have a different approach on this, or different kind of landscape with Data Cubed, as you will have with your businesses too, right? And ideally, you want to be getting those the risk down. You want them all in the low risk box as much as possible.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I'm just going to flick back to the PowerPoint slide. Right. Okay, so we've just been through the consultant's perspective, the Miro board. So as I said at the beginning, these are this series of webinars is around the 6 pillars of data maturity, and this one specifically is around risk management. Data maturity in managing risk is actually quite interesting, because to effectively manage data risk, you need to ensure that you're covering all aspects of data maturity. So you're building your maturity across those 6 pillars of architecture, governance, culture, analytics, quality, and then risk management. You can assess yourself at datamaturity.score.com, but we will be more than happy to sit down with you and go through it in a workshop. But we're also, off the back of this, we are offering everybody attending here a free data risk workshop where we will go through the risk matrix with you specifically for your business on your data and AI risks that you're considering. And so we can map it out there, and that's a great starter for 10 on how you can plan to mitigate those risks to make sure that you're not being risk adverse and you've still got the opportunities. In addition, we have a security assessor, because as I said at the beginning, data security is often the thing that people think about when it comes to risk management and data. But as you can see, there are a whole bunch of other considerations as well. But just to help you, we've got a template of considerations you should consider when it comes to security, and we've just mapped it out in a template. So we'll share that with you as well. Okay, over to you, Hels.
Yeah, and just to kind of show you how we go about these things with our clients. So normally, risk is just one part of it. A lot of our clients want a data and AI strategy and plan. So this is the way we do that. We have a two-step process: discovery, which is like an audit. We facilitate requirement gathering. We look at your use cases. We look at the tech you've got in place, the data sources, the outputs. We score you using our data maturity score that we've shown you. And we look at the people skills that you've got in-house. And we play that back to you in a really concise report that says, here's what we've understood. Then, the real value is in the design part, which is then, okay, here's the art of the possible. Here's your strategy for data and AI. Here's the different solutions that we recommend for you and why we've discounted some versus others. We create a phase plan for you. It's fully costed, it's fully resourced with an ROI, and we do some prototyping and wireframing for you too. So our clients love this view. It's done in 4 weeks, and the output is a data and AI strategy and plan that they can share with all their stakeholders and get engagement and agreement to proceed with the data and AI plan and get that implemented for them. So if any of you want to talk about that, we can talk about that with you.
Okay, so
Q&A.
Yes, questions and answers. So we did have some questions come through before the session, but feel free to ask anything in the chat function on this this presentation. But the first question that I've got here is does AI really increase risk when it comes to data? What do you think to that one, Hels?
I think we've talked about some AI specific risks. I think there are some very initial risks that we see a lot of people have uploaded commercial data into a public ChatGPT, right? Which, you probably wouldn't have had an arena to do that in before. So I think there are some new risks that we've never had before that require training and business processes to say, you cannot do this, right? You cannot be uploading business data into these places. I think, we've talked about the AI specific risks that are in there. I think, though, overall, AI is powered by data, and therefore the data risks that have always existed are still there. I think probably AI increases the impact of those risks in that your data will go further and faster and bigger and be used in ways that perhaps you haven't considered. So perhaps in my view, the risk level, the probability of the risk occurring, will have increased, and potentially the impact will have increased as well, because AI is going to fast track us, and we're doing everything quicker and better and more automated using data. So yeah, I think it is my view. What do you think, Nick?
So I think we're at a point in time where it is an increased risk, probably because of a lack of knowledge. And I think that roll forward a couple of years when our understanding of generative AI particularly and how it is implemented within organizations, I think the risk will start to come down as our knowledge goes up. So I agree with you that data is at the heart of AI. AI cannot work without data. And so there are more considerations you need to have of your data to ensure that AI is working correctly. But as our understanding of how these tools and technologies work increases, the risk will start to come down.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then there was a question around quality of data, and for AI to be not as risky, does quality on all your data in your organization have to be sorted, or is it to specific pockets?
Yeah, I mean, data quality is one of those things that with every client I talk to, and I'm talking to business leaders, multiple business leaders every single day, every business leader says their data quality is poor and they are frustrated by it and they think it's perhaps poorer than anyone else's. It's almost a bit like the data confessional that we have at DataCubed. Everyone thinks data quality is an issue in their organization. I don't know anybody who's kind of gone, we've got great quality data. So data quality, I think, is a universal problem across businesses. The type of data quality problems vary, right? Often the data is incomplete rather than the data being, somehow flawed in some way. Mostly it's having incomplete data. So I think it comes down, the way I think about it is with anything data and AI related, it could impact every single thing you do in a business. So data is flying all around all our businesses every day, all the time. The way I like to think about any data or AI project is you start with a use case. You start with a particular problem or a particular opportunity, and then you work back to where the data is coming from and focus on the quality of that data set or data sets. So rather than trying to tackle it as a universal, oh my goodness, we're going to sort out the quality of all our data in our organization at once, which is going to feel totally overwhelming, I would say it's more around use case by use case, work through them one by one. And depending on those use cases, your data quality might be a problem, or for some use cases, it might not be a problem. For instance, if you're doing some analysis which is around trend analysis and you want to look at aggregated anonymized trends and aggregated anonymized forecasts, it's probably fine that you might not have the best data quality. But if you want to do personalization of communications to your clients, it's vital. It's 100% right, isn't it? So I would say start with the use cases, and each use case will dictate both the source of data that needs to be considered and therefore the quality of that data.
Perfect, thank you. And then the last question I've got here is around governance and risk management and how they sort of sit hand in hand. And it's around can you decrease risk through good governance? And the answer is absolutely yes. So if you have a governance framework in place that is looking at the quality of your data, that is ensuring that that quality doesn't ebb away, is maintained, then to go back to Hels's previous answer, the use of AI is going to be all that more better. But that's down to the governance of your data, but also the governance of how to use those AI. So that we talked about guardrails and guidelines and knowledge of those tools, ensuring that all of that is outlined within a governance process and procedure sort of documentation for your business is fundamental. And the more you have incorporated within that, the less risk that you will be exposed to. But it's making sure you find that fine balance, that it doesn't handcuff people to not being able to do anything with this technology, because there's so much unknown opportunity, and you need to, in a controlled way, give people license to experiment as well. So it's a really hard balance to find. I don't know what your thoughts are there, Hels.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, nothing more to add.
Okay, perfect. Well, I think that almost brings us to a close. So we have 3 more of these webinars coming up over the next few weeks on the remaining 3 of our pillars of our data maturity. So we have cultivating an AI culture on the 27th of June. analytics for AI, and ensuring that data quality for AI success, which is fundamental. So please tune in for those, and we look forward to seeing you again then. We are Data Cubed. Thank you for joining us, and we will share the freebies that we mentioned, but please reach out if you'd like us to sit down with you and talk through a risk matrix or the data maturity exercise. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, everyone.